What's up, guys? Polk here, and today we are going to be announcing the 10 top entries for hashtag Rake It. If you're not familiar with what Rake It is, a week or two ago I announced a competition where you had to submit a picture or video explaining why more rake is better. Well, we got some amazing entries and we're going to go through them one by one, but before we jump into those, I have a quick announcement to make. I'm going to be playing 25-50 No Limit Hold'em on Poker Night America this Friday and Sunday. I'm going to be giving away either 10 or 20% of my entire net profit from both those sessions. Last time I played on Poker Night America, I won $75,000 or so this could be a sizable giveaway. If you want to jump into the action, you can check it out on Facebook at Polk Poker, or you can click the link in the description below. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in to our 10 winning entries from Rake It. In terms of straight effort, not a single entry outdid Gregory Les, who went all the way.
This is Killer Whale's entry for More Rake is Better. I'm currently here at the Home Depot. Step 1, buy a bunch of rakes.
Okay, so I can see where this is going, but what are you going to do with all the rakes?
So here we are with the rakes. We don't really have much room in the trunk, but we'll see if we can make this fit. So I usually don't dress this well, but this is gonna be the tricky part, getting past security and getting all these fucking rakes in the poker room.
I wonder how many people have ever said this is going to be the tricky part, referencing carrying a bunch of rakes by a security guard to get into a casino. It's probably just a one-person list. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is going exactly where you think it's going.
Hey, I know you guys like rake. More rake is better. Here's some rakes. Here's some rakes, you guys. More rake is better, right? More rake is better. More rake is better. Here's some rakes, you guys. More rake is better.
We got all the rakes in here.
Showed a lot of heart there, buddy. Definitely worthy of a signed rake. Also, I enjoyed closing it out on a little cash out on my titties by check raise.
Daniel Negreanu released a video saying more rake is better, and Polk was, it's like,
We're gonna have to escort you out.
Gary also does some other videos on YouTube. If you want to check him out, I put the link in the description below. You can also see the full version of that video. This entry you've probably seen if you've been on social because we posted in a lot of places, but it was from Oh Snap with a little Star Wars themed entry. I thought this was pretty funny for a bunch of reasons, but you know, the rake-shaped lightsaber probably was the kicker for me. Someone in the comments somewhere said that they should have gone with PokerStars The Force Awakens, which could have been a little creative too, but all in all, definitely a worthy winner. It was really important to me that if two entries were close, we went with the one where someone put a little more effort in because, you know, there were a lot of entries out there, and I just wanted to give the little extra edge to the people that went the extra mile. This entry is not like that at all. Short and sweet, although you would think if someone did tweet this at you, your response would be something like, oh, I shouldn't have parked there, like I just had to run in for a second, it was a mistake, something like that. But instead, Negreanu doubled down saying that it was allowed for the event, and anyone playing in the event could park in those spots. Look, this seems a little familiar to something else that's going on when you might not have said the right thing and you could have just let it... no, what am I talking about? Let's move on to the next entry. One of my favorite entries here, Coach Dan, a little spin-off of Coach Doug.
A lot of people always ask me the question, is more rake bad for the game? I usually respond with, you think more rake's bad for the fucking game? What's up, guys? Coach Dan Polk here. Been having a really tough time trying to teach recreational players and the newer generation, really, that more rake is better. And it just seems they're just not getting it.
More rake, guys. We need more rake. More rake is better. Oh.
I came to Coach Dan to learn about poker, but now all he talks about is how more rake is better. Today he was yelling, more rake, and there weren't even any leaves outside.
I can't stand Coach Dan.
He made me rake all day.
I gotta give a little credit where credit is due. Just to get your sister and mom out in the backyard raking leaves for a video entry, pretty amazing stuff. The fam also jumped in with some pretty solid acting skills, which is really saying something considering you probably had to try and explain to them what was going on and why you're raking fake leaves out in the backyard. Also, attention to detail. I like how the name tag changed from Dan Polk to Dog Puke. Very subtle. I caught that. And I want to say thank you for your entry, Michael Yeager. Our fifth winner was another simple one. Someone made some new modules for the Upswing Lab, and there were a couple pretty good ones, including More Rake is Better. Daniel explains how to put your customers in a spot. Tank tops and GTO chairs. Poppy, aka Sleeveless in Chicago, discloses approach in this lab sponsored by IKEA. And Master Chess with Fernando. I'm sure those were the exact new modules that you guys were hoping for. Next up, our sixth winner went with a little creative Skrillex remix, and I'll probably just go ahead and roll the clip.
It's just like the saying says, you know, in the poker game of life, women are the rake. They are the fucking rake.
Quickly, you can get a huge pile of
cash.
It's not the raking part that's the problem. It's the what do you do with the
Pros
after you rake them. That's the problem. Okay.
That entry from Jack Sinclair had a nice command of memes all around, and I did enjoy the exiting of Elite on Supernova Elite, so definitely a winning entry. Next up, our seventh winning entry comes from Jason Les' brother Gregory Les, who explained why More Rake is actually better.
What's up, guys? Doug Polk here. In between reading the books, telling JMO and Cheat to shut up about Bitcoin, and researching new high school hairstyles, I've been studying to see if More Rake is actually good. I've studied the charts and determined that when there is more rake, there is more losing players. And when there is more losing players, there are more players looking for coaching. And when there's more players looking for coaching, there's more people signing up for Upswing Labs, allowing me, Doug Polk, the #1 heads-up hold'em player of all time, to do more bankroll challenges. And there's no better way as me, Doug Polk, to spend my time as the #1 no-limit, high-stakes, online, heads-up, mono-e-mono, Republic of Texas Hold'em player of all time than doing bankroll challenges. So put your banks up that the rate goes even higher.
This next winning entry was simple, but down to the point. Why is More Rake better? Who cares? I still have your money. That was cold, James Quill. Cold. Our ninth winning entry was from Mitchell Reed, which reads, More Rake is better as it allows these poor farmers to feed their family. For just one beat the clock per day, you can make a difference. Well, that is charming, Mitchell, and I'll make sure to pass along this message to help these poor, hungry farmers. Our final winning entry for the Rake It campaign was an outstanding entry from Luke Dangler.
Accurately representing a complicated scene, such as a poker game within a crowded and colorful casino, can be a daunting task, especially when working live on location. When drawing from life, one of the biggest and most commonly overlooked challenges facing artists is time management. If you are not careful during the planning stages of your composition, you might end up biting off more than you can chew, and find yourself unable to complete your sketch or painting before too much of the scene changes as people move around. To improve your odds of finishing when facing time constraints, I recommend borrowing a strategy from the game of poker itself: table selection. In this example, for the sake of efficiency, I have chosen to illustrate a poker table in a card room with extremely high rake, which is the commission fee taken off the table by the house. Because of this high rake, there will be less chips on the table, which take forever to draw, and less players in the game, which can be particularly challenging to paint. Players sitting at these high rake tables will also tend to be more angry and irritable in general compared to players who aren't getting ripped off, which will help you bring more emotion and feeling into your finished artwork. Drawing and painting from life is tricky, but can be very rewarding. Next time you find yourself wandering around a poker room with your sketchbook out, just remember, more rake is better, because it makes life easier for the aspiring poker room portrait artist. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck.
Simply a stunning entry here from Luke. If you want to check out his YouTube channel and the original video, you can do so. There's a link in the description. Head over and leave a few words about what you thought about it. I think that it would be great to support Luke in what he did here for this competition. Look, guys, I know we've had a lot of fun with this whole why is more Rake better thing, and I don't think that we'll ever quite look at Rake in the same way again. But it's also important for us to remember why we are doing this to begin with. The bottom line is that more Rake is not better for the player pool, period. As Rake increases, more players in the game lose, because more of their money goes to the house. It's not exactly rocket science to figure out why this would happen. As bigger percentages of their stacks are taken, it is more difficult for players to win. One thing that especially annoyed me about the way Negreanu handled this was on his channel on YouTube, he often would tell his viewers, oh,
one small snippet.
What I said was taken out of context.
Was taken completely out of context.
I never said more Rake is better.
I've never said that in my life.
More Rake isn't better.
The idea that I'm for Rake.
But here's why it would be better.
It'd probably be good for that specific game.
Look, you kind of got to pick the side of the fence you're on. Either more Rake is good for players or it's bad for players. And we all know it's bad for players. But on the note of I'm taking what you're saying out of context, I want to run the original clip in context so that that argument cannot be thrown against me. Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
At the very micro stakes, they lowered the rake, okay, to try and what ended up happening was they had to reverse it. Why? Because what was happening was it became too enticing for pros to play the lower limits, and then those 1 penny, 2 penny players who just wanted to have a good experience were getting crushed by good players. Whereas if the rake is too high for the good players, what you're left with is bad players who are going to lose, right? Yeah. But they're losing less per 100 hands than they would be if the pros were playing with them. So, there's a lot of games where that's true, where the rake is really high and it keeps pros away because they're like, well, we can't beat this. But overall, for the game, it's actually better because pros aren't playing. So nobody's so they're losing the rake money, which is going to be more, but they're not losing as much. They're basically passing the money around, Yeah. There's nobody just dominating.
I've never said that in my life.
There are two main points that I want to make about this clip. The first is that when he says that for the game, it's actually better, that simply cannot possibly be true, because more money from that table is being taken by the house. As the amount of money being taken increases, the worse it is for the game. As that money decreases, the better it is for the game. That's just the way it works. You can't argue that because of the balance of pros and non-pros, it gets better. That's a little bit of a different thing entirely. And if the game is raked so much that pros can't win, it doesn't mean the game's good now. It just means that more money is being taken off the table at a more equal distribution amongst the players. There aren't going to be winners, doesn't mean the game is better. The second point that I want to address is when he says this, quote, they're passing the money around theory example, that is not what's happening. There is someone in there dominating the game, and it's the house. The money just doesn't magically get passed around from player to player. It gets passed in one direction from player to house. Yes, I understand what he's saying in this exact example where it's just 7 or 8 equally skilled people. They're all not going to get hunted by good players. I get what he's trying to say with that, but it doesn't make the game better. It doesn't mean they're still not getting crushed, because they will be by this rake increase. It just means now there aren't pros there that can live from playing the game. There is something, though, that we're going to have to accept as a community, and that is that sometimes rake has to increase. It could be for inflation. It could be to be more competitive in the marketplace. There are a bunch of different reasons as to why it might increase. And yes, sometimes that's going to include companies making more profit. The real problem that I see in the online space is that we have one juggernaut and then, a few major sites still like 88 or Party Poker, but PokerStars has such a large market share that when they roll out a long series of these changes, they're not worried about what it might do to their company because they don't view other companies as threats. That's not really a healthy environment. It was a lot better back when, there were several players, Stars, Full Tilt, Ultimate Bet, that kind of kept everyone more in check. But this is still the reality that Stars is the biggest by far and can make these moves without really having to worry about it. I think that if you do care about this subject and you play a game type that can be played on different sites, I understand how some game types only run on Stars or maybe 888 or something like that. But, if you play a game type where you can play another site, support lower rake by playing on the site with less rake. That actually does make a difference. And yeah, I know one person doesn't, but if it becomes a general attitude, then that does change things. The only way that these smaller sites end up with more market share is by people choosing to play on them. So reward the sites that offer less rake for your game type. And you know what? They're rewarding you by letting you have more opportunity to profit. Now, I'm not going to sit here and break down every site's rake structure. I don't know where's the best place to play whatever. So don't ask me because I'm not that guy. Do your research, understand where you should play, and support them. I want to say quickly here too, thank you guys so much for all of the support with this competition. We got hundreds of entries. There were a lot of good ones. We only have 10 rakes to give away. So, I really do appreciate all of the time and effort you guys put in. We're going to end with a little montage of some ones that I thought deserved some honorable mention. But you guys really, stepped up to the plate and went for it here. And I appreciate that. And the thing is this, like on the channel, we do a lot of different things. We do some poker hands. We do some funny stuff. We do some news. We do a little bit of everything. But I always want, when there's something that I believe in, to be able to, try and turn it into something funny, something enjoyable. And when you guys give that, feedback back, when you guys are part of it, I really appreciate that. It makes me love what I do here. And I want you guys to know that I'm very thankful for that. Okay, so let's close this out with a montage of some entries that didn't win, but deserve a little bit of recognition.
Sir, can you tell me if more rake is better?
Like it, you want more.
I follow you.
Thank you guys for joining me for today's video. Make sure to hit that sub button and join the Empire.